اوكي وعن بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وعن هانئ رضي الله عنها قالت لما كان يوم الفتح, right, this is كان تامة, right, كان تامة is the kana that means when something was, right, not when something was X, right, كان
Yep.
الله يعني وجد الله, right, as
Mhm.
opposed to كان الله عليما حكيما, right, so لما حصل لما وجد يوم الفتح, when it existed, right? Not when, so for example, not when Zayd was sick. لما كان زيد مريضا. That's كان ناقصة, the كان that needs a خبر. Here, I'm just saying لما وجد يوم الفتح, right? يوم وجد يوم الفتح, فتح مكة بدل. جاءت فاطمة فجلست على يسار رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأم هانئ عن يمينه. فجاءت الوليدة بإناء فيه شراب فناولته فشرب منه ثم ناوله أم هانئ فشربت منه فقالت يا رسول الله لقد أفطرت وكنت صائمة فقال لها أكنت تقضين شيئا وزي قضاء قالت لا قال فلا يضرك إن كانت تطوعا, right? رواه أبو داود والترمذي والدارمي وفي رواية أحمد والترمذي نحوه فيه فقالت يا رسول الله أما إني كنت صائما فقال الصائم المتطوع أمير نفسه إن شاء صام وإن شاء أفطر, right? So this is an example why the Sunan, right, Tirmidhi and Abu Dawud are more useful than Bukhari Muslim, because Bukhari Muslim is like you're dealing with a super Sahih hadith, okay, and doesn't always have the words that you want, you know, whereas here it's like, can we just lower the bar a little bit on like, is it like Hassan? It's like, it's good enough to be a hujjah. Okay, it's good enough to be a hujjah. And then you have the exact wording that I want, like the exact point that I'm trying to get across. Like, yes, you can break a sunnah fast, right? If you look as well, like say, for example, the hadith on reciting the Fatiha behind the Imam. So like in Bukhari, it just says, the version of Bukhari, like the super Sahih version is, there's no prayer for someone who doesn't recite the Fatiha, right? Fantastic. But what about if I'm behind the Imam? Doesn't mention it. So our proof for Shafis would be khalas, it's am, right? There's no prayer for someone who doesn't do the Fatiha, khalas, it's am. So we're like holding on to like this kind of thing, but now we go into Abu Dawud and Tirmidhi, they're like, no, there's a specific hadith here which mentions the Prophet ﷺ was reciting probably in Fajr, and the Prophet ﷺ said, why is it that you're reciting the same time as me? Right? And then they say, oh, we didn't know whatever the Prophet ﷺ said. Well, when the Imam is reciting, don't recite except for the Fatiha, and then quote, because there's no prayer for someone who doesn't do the Fatiha. So I've got the whole picture now, and it's pretty obvious. The Prophet ﷺ was reciting aloud in Fajr, and the Prophet ﷺ is telling them in that context that there's no prayer for someone who doesn't do the Fatiha. So instead of having to stick to like, okay, the umum of the hadith, like I have an exact thing, and the hadith is sahih enough, right, to be a hujjah, right? And it's going to be in Abu Dawud, it's going to be Tirmidhi, it's going to be Ibn Hibban or something, right? So this is like, so it's like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to look at really like it's like, oh, oh, I have guests coming. Oh, but I don't have organic grass-fed beef to serve them. It's like, Habibi, they're not gonna die, Like it's not poison, is it? It's like it's okay. You don't have to, as long as it's halal, it's good enough, right? It doesn't have to be organic, grass-fed, native to this country. Oh, the beef are not actually native to my country. So it's like, what are you trying to do? So the issue with Bukhari Muslim is the standards are so high that it's almost like you're trying to show something on a hadith level, but I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying for a faqih, khalas, this is good enough. Tirmidhi, Abu Dawud, great, it's much more useful, right? So it's a bit like an ammi. He's saying, yeah, but he's like, but he says, like, give me a fatwa based on the tuhfa. It's like, Habibi, are you even Shafi'i? It's like, no. Why do you care about it? Has to be the tuhfa then? Like, why do you care? He's just asking for anything in the shihado. It's like, khalas, I need a fatwa. Khalas. Sheikh, I did this. Don't worry, Hanafi school will cover you. It's good enough, right? But you're like, so are you trying to ask a question from the, like, exactly what Ibn Hajar's fatwa is on this issue? Or are you just asking for a general fatwa to, like, get through life, right? So it's like, it's not even useful then, right? The tuhfa would not even be useful for the average person. It's a tool to help you. So Bukhari Muslim is like that. It's a tool for the muhaddith who is going to use that for various things, but it's not particularly useful for the average person, right? That's why and I was teaching my brother the other day, and I was telling him, he's like, so you're telling me I shouldn't read Bukhari Muslim? I was like, not really. It's not particularly useful for you. Like you're not a muhaddith, right? So Abu Dawood is way more useful. Tirmidhi is way more useful, right? You look at like the Indo-Pak, they got 50,000 gazillion commentaries on Abu Dawood and Tirmidhi. Like they're really, really useful works, right? If you look, for example, the section of in Tirmidhi on what is it? Taraweeh, super useful, right? Really useful. Like this is practical to me. Like, okay, here's the hadith, and what did the Salaf do? That's a really useful, nice thing. Like I'm reading this book in a masjid, and it's like it's got much more material that is more relevant to me as opposed to Bukhari and Muslim, which is just the standards are so high, and the goal is so academic that it's kind of like defeats the object. It's not really that useful for me. Wallahu a'lam.
Question one: was Tirmidhi a Shafi'i?
It seems like it. I think some people are kind of Shafi, kind of Hanbali. Yeah. There's like
Because
one
I've heard,
there's some issues where it's kind of quite clear like he doesn't like the Hanafi school. Um,
um,
Otherwise like it's yeah, I think Allahu A'lam.
because I heard like a ton, like I don't know, a lot of his hadith like inclined toward the Shafi'i method.
Yeah. It's certainly very easy as a Shafi to read it, be like, yeah, this is what we say, you know. Like you have a Shafi doing a sharh on it, it's like, yeah, of course I know the sharh because I know the fiqh, you know.
Mhm.
It's like and it's what does this hadith mean? What does it not mean? Allah, if I know fiqh, I already know the answer. It's pretty. So he seems like a Shafi. Wallahu a'lam. Like a Darimi, he is a student of Buwaiti, right?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he's like the student of Buwaiti. So like he's obviously Shafi. He Tirmidhi studied with Rabi', but is he Shafi'i proper? Allahu a'lam. Or something in between. He's Shafi-esque. That's all. That's kind of a word you can say. Allahu
And
a'lam.
the Muradi, right? Rabi' al-Muradi,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I've learned recently with two Rabi'os.
Yeah. There was Al-Jizi or something.
Yeah, they're both the name are named Rabi' ibn Sulaiman. But one's Muradi, one's Yazid. But I think the more prolific is the Muradi.
Yeah, the Muradi is when they say Rabi', we mean him, right? Okay. وعن الزهري عن عروة عن عائشة قالت كنت أنا وحفصة صائمتين. Um, So interestingly, this is one of the beautiful things with the Muwatta. Yeah, he's going to mention in a second. Okay. So he says, وعرض لنا طعام اشتهيناه فأكلناه منه. فقالت حفصة يا رسول الله إنا كنا صائمتين فعرض لنا طعام اشتهيناه فأكلنا منه قال اقضيا يوما آخر مكانه. رواه الترمذي. وذكر جماعة من الحفاظ رووا عن الزهري عن عائشة مرسلا. Right? Mursal doesn't mean here that the tabi is quoting the Prophet. What it means is munqati'an. Right? There's a gap.
Yeah,
Right?
there's a gap. Yeah.
لم يذكروا فيه عن عروة وهذا أصح. Right? And how would I know that? Go to Muwatta. Right? So in general, the Muwatta doesn't have weird errant versions of a hadith in it in general. Like in general, like you want to see like the real version of a hadith, you'll find it in the Muwatta. So the Muwatta, what's his name? Al-Qadi Abu Bakr al-Arabi, he said the Muwatta is like the center, is the core. Bukhari is the circle around that core, and Tirmidhi is the circle around that core. And so if you skip Bukhari, like Muwatta is really useful for us as Shafi'is because a lot of our adillah are actually there. You think this like, oh, this hadith and that hadith. In reality, it's like half of our madhab is basically in the Maliki school, or
Okay.
at least the sources of the Maliki school. So sometimes we won't look at the sources of the Maliki school in the same way that they do, but it will at least be Medani. Like there's a lot of Medani things in our school, right? Like the whole idea of, for example, the of al-waqt al-daruri, right? That's Medani. Bayhaqi, he says, what's our proof? He says our proof is this, plus the fuqaha sabah of Medina. So
What are you referring to? Already?
like the whole idea that somebody who is, let's say, someone's insane, someone's on a period, and they're going to pray now dhuhr and asr ada'an in asr time, like that doesn't exist
Uh,
in Hanafi school. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, Why
Okay.
I'm always غير مكلف. Like, how can I, I was insane. How can I like pray dhuhr,
Oh
asr,
yeah.
that, and like that doesn't make any sense. So and our ta'leel is kind of a little bit funny, but based on this, but in reality, it's just Medini. It's like that's how the Medinans understood it, and that's what we go with. Like, there's a lot of things in the Shafi school when you're like, oh man, right? So I don't know where the quote is on this, but somebody quoted to me. They said, Shah Wali Allah Dahlawi, he said, the first textbook in the Shafi school is the Muwatta, meaning the Shafi school existed before the Imam Shafi, right?
So when I've noticed that a lot of Shafi'i's old opinions, a lot of them will coincide with the Maliki opinion.
Exactly.
A lot of them.
Yeah. So there we go. Same thing. So like in the he's having these debates. He'll say Sahibuna wa Sahibukum, meaning Imam Malik and Imam Abu Hanifa. So he's almost seeing himself as a Maliki. Like
Hmm.
like the Shafi, like, and so even had this discussion with a Maliki scholar recently, and I was like, when the early Malikis disagreed with Imam Malik, which they did, what was their usul? You know, like, did they go against Amal Ahmadina like Imam Shafi did, etc.? It was kind of, it's not 100% clear, but basically, like, there isn't like there's not it's not super different. Like the way that the early many certain early Malikis disagreed with Imam Malik, and the way that Imam Shafi did it, it's not super different. He's very much like a Maliki kind of person. Like if you can put like the Shafi'i and Hanbali school under the Maliki school as a general approach, it wouldn't be wrong. As opposed to when we look at Hanafi fiqh, it's like really, really different. It's like a different branch, right? It's like Indo-European versus like Semitic languages, like really different. Like the way they
Yeah.
structure is really, really different, right? Like, but as opposed to like German and English, like, yeah, it was basically the same language, Habibi. It's like not that different, you know. So like, there's a lot of structures, yes, on some internal things here and there, but a lot of structures in the Maliki school, Shafi'i school, and Hanbali school that are very, very similar, right? I'm a Hanbali, I'm like, yeah, I can understand Maliki fiqh, whereas I don't understand Hanafi fiqh unless I study it properly because it's very different. It's like a different branch of the deen, right? um, or like a different riwayah, of like Quran, like, oh, that's really different. So anyway, I was going back to this issue is that Imam Malik, the way that Imam Malik narrates it in the Muwatta is like this. He goes Malik to Zuhri to Aisha, right? And that's one of the reasons why Imam Shafi doesn't apply it. He's like, the hadith is weak. So I have a strong hadith here, right? Which is right. As-Sa'im al-Mutawwi' Amiru Nafsihi. This is strong enough. Yes, it's not in group number one, right? It wasn't Fasal Awwal, it wasn't Bukhari Muslim, but that's not a problem, right? It's in Abu Dawud and Tirmidhi, meaning so it's strong enough, right? And then this hadith is weak. There's a gap in the chain, so I don't care about it, right?
And even TV is giving other solutions. Like, yeah, no, this is Sunnah. The
Exactly,
Qada is Sunnah here.
right? And other legal reason, just like that, right? Okay, رواه Abu Dawood and Zumail Mawla Urwa and Urwa and Aisha. So then Abu Dawood says, no, that's not true. I have another source which goes around Zuhri, right, from Urwa to Aisha. So yeah, it's possible that that Zuhri quoted it directly from Aisha, and so Zuhri didn't narrate with Aisha. They were born at the like Zuhri was born in the year that Aisha died. So between
Mm.
Aisha and Zuhri, there's going to be like, if it's not Urwa, there's probably like two people, and we don't know who they are, right? There's like a blank, right? And so anyway, Abu Dawood he quotes with another chain transmission. Maybe it's strong, maybe it's weak. That actually does a mutaba'at that says no, it's strong, right?
So Zuhri did not meet Urwa. So the point is Zuhri did not meet Urwa even.
Say it again, sorry.
So we're saying Zuhri didn't even meet Urwa.
He met Urwa, but this
Ah,
hadith he didn't actually know. So according to
yeah,
many
yeah, yeah,
scholars, he didn't even narrate it from Urwa.
yeah,
So and so those people who put him in the chain, they're just following the norm. They're like, oh yeah, presumably he's getting from Urwa. Not always, right?
yeah, yeah.
So it's problematic. Wallahu a'lam. وعن أم عمارة بنت كعب أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم دخل عليها فدعت له بطعام فقال لها كلي فقالت إني صائمة فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الصائم إذا أكل عنده صلت عليه الملائكة حتى يفرغوا, right? رواه أحمد والترمذي وابن ماجه والدارمي, right? Um, so the point is that it's difficult, right? So the point is because of the mashaqqa, right? That's why. Um, Here's another issue, okay, with mutaakhirin. There's one thing you notice with I've no this is again I'm talking to you as a fellow talib ilm is the Eastern scholars, sorry, the Western scholars, meaning Spain and late scholars, are always super conservative when it comes to gender issues, right? Now I hate to quote what's his name, Dr. Fadl, what's his name? Uh, who's that Egyptian sheikh from Yale or something? What's his name?
Contemporary as they like what?
He's like a contemporary. What's his name? He's got some really crazy ideas. What's his name? Doctor something.
It's no longer strange. That's
I can't remember. I can't remember his name now. Anyway, but so there's this Azhari sheikh who is well read. Like he knows the tradition. He's not ignorant. But he's got some crazy ideas, right? And some really crazy ideas. And he is, I think he lectures in Yale or something like that. And so anyway, he said like the late scholars have this obsession with sex, like everything is connected to it, right? And there's truth in that to some extent. Meaning, what you will find is that for some reason, I think society became there's much more corruption, and the issues between the genders became really bad, and the fuqaha had to be more strict because crazy things were happening on a regular basis. So for example, the issue of niqab, right? So you find like
Mhm.
Imam al-Haramain, who is Eastern, right? He's Eastern. He's like, niqab is like, it'll be like it's like, it'll be like shocking, right? It'll be like khilaf al-muru'ah for a woman to go out the house without a niqab. Whereas if you look at the Sunnah, it's like, yes, niqab existed. Like, I don't accept the idea that niqab is a bid'ah, but it's like, it's not always the case. There's many
Mhm.
things like they didn't, it's not true to say they all did that, right? Yeah, even for example, Shafi'is, right? With Imam Nawawi, the issue with the hijab for the amma, right? Before Imam Nawawi, the majority vote in the Shafi'i school is that the amma is like a man. She can walk around, she can walk in the street topless. And now suddenly it's like, no, no, she has to wear niqab, you know? So it's like, what happened? Like suddenly it's like really, really strict. And yes, I'm sure there's reasons for it, but in reality, it's probably because of Fasad Zaman. They're like looking at like Habibi. Those guys could lower their gaze. Like, oh, I go to your house and there's you have, for example, a female slave who just opens the door and says, oh, Sheikh Hussein's just coming. And I'm like, just lower my gaze. Whereas now I'll be like, oh, dude, this happened, that happened. And it's like they just said forget about it. Just like in Tarim, like they'll often have like boys and girls not even looking at each other, brothers, you know? They're like, well, why would you do that? So because weird things happen.
So
Like
I don't recall right where this, but I remember reading that when in the case of Emma, they say that this is not saying that this is not ours, does not give permissibility to look at her, to gaze upon her.
yeah, but the point is, um, let's say for example you turn up in Tarim, like everybody is total niqabi, right? And it's like, is that reflective of life during the time of the Prophet ﷺ? No. You would have seen people who are, so there are women with like, let's say four categories. You're going to have a woman who is the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, like 100% behind a veil, right? Like you're not going to see.
Yeah,
And then you're going to see other women who are like, yeah, you actually used to see that sister's hair before the verse of hijab was revealed, right? And now
yeah,
you just don't see her. You see her in the masjid, but you don't see her, right? And then you're going to have not you're going to have like women who are slaves who are like, yeah, you see her like a man, you know? It's like, whoa. So the point is like you're living in a society where like you do actually see women. It's not like you don't see women. And now suddenly you'll have this situation where the fuqaha will talk as if no, you should never ever see women ever. You know, like I mentioned, they mentioned that like, if a woman is looking over her balcony, you should stop her because she might see a man. It's like, bro, like it's okay to see a man, right?
SubhanAllah, my father
You
was
know,
that way.
right? And so alhamdulillah, right? So the fuqaha in general, they're just very, very, very strict, right? And that so anybody who's late and anybody who's Eastern is what you observe, right? Whereas you go to Spain, the same time as the what's it called? Same time as Imam al-Haramain, you have Qadi Iyad who says, yeah, like a woman does not have to wear a niqab, right? In fact, they agree that she doesn't have to do that, and men should just lower their gaze, right?
Yeah.
Um, etc. And then similarly, like Ibn Hajar, who is late, right? Ibn Hajar Asqalani, he's like, he will explain things like this as in, oh yeah, the Prophet ﷺ, of his khasa'is is that every woman was a mahram to him.
Yeah.
Whereas, why don't I just come along and say, Habibi, like, I can be around a woman as long as she's not a fitna, you know? So here the Prophet ﷺ visits a lady. How old is she? Right? Maybe she's not
Yeah.
super young, super attractive. The process, she said she invites the process for some food. She's not necessarily alone with him, right? But like that's okay, you know. So you will find the fuqaha be like, you know, like you get to these levels like, no, that's totally unacceptable. Like, oh my God, I went to that guy's house and I saw his wife. It's like it's okay. She was just serving the food and she went to the other room, you know. It's not the end of the world, you know. And so what you find is with the late scholars, it's like everything is like super strict. And again, there could be a reason is that yeah, because you guys are all messed up, you know. You know what I'm saying? So like I remember like one Hanafi saying this. He said like I used to be a non-Muslim. I know what non-Muslims are like. I would not want any man to ever see my wife, my daughter, or my mom ever, because I just know what men are like. You know? So
Yeah.
so the issue then is for us particular Shafi'is, we don't change the fiqh really based on urf and ada, and we don't really have istislah. Whereas that's kind of what's happening is kind of like, yeah, in principle it's all cool, but we're just here we're saying, yeah, why are we so strict? Because people are all messed up, you know?
So, do you really think that is the case when it comes to Shafi'i madhab?
So the issue with the Shafi'i madhab is that we do istislah, we do you like you see when they're functioning, they are looking at situation, they are trying to change things, trying to deal with the pros and cons, but they just don't admit it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not part of our usul. So we do
Yeah.
it, but it's not really part of our usul. Whereas the other schools is actually that's more part of the usul. And I honestly believe like you will see things. I think Imam Malik will do some like overt things where he'll say that's the deen in principle, but it doesn't work for our time. Whereas Imam Shafi would never do that. Like
Yeah.
you know, does that make sense?
So
So
no, because
particularly when it comes to like gender issues, I just think they're really doing that. That like because if you just like look at things in a kind of like just like a like here's this picture, right? This like the Prophet ﷺ entered alayha
mhm.
fada'at bita'amin. She brought the food. What? So the Prophet ﷺ saw her, right?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, but that's because he's the Prophet. It's like, you're like, really? Like, or is that like, is it like you just saw people? Like the Prophet ﷺ was on Hajj, right? And his uh, cousin, right, Fadl ibn Abbas, he's looking at some woman. He didn't say, oh, ban women from going to Hajj because a man might see. He's like, yeah, here's a guy who's on Hajj in Ihram and he's checking some girl out. He just turned his face away, right? So, you know, it's just important to be. I'm not trying to refute what the fuqaha is saying. I'm just trying to be cognizant of it. Like they're just being super strict, probably for a reason. Not that we actually have to, in principle, be super strict. Like it's not like what I'm saying. Like I remember one of my teachers, like I was asking him, I said, do you give salams to sisters? He says no. So then he like, and like and then like he's talking to some old lady on the phone. He says, "Assalamu alaikum." I was like, "Bro, like you just did that." He said, "Yeah, she's an old lady." So you mean it's like not a big deal, right? Like that's just normal, right? Um,
Mhm.
so there's different situations. Wallahu a'lam.
So I mean, I understand all this, but I mean, it's what you said about Shafi'i method, like exactly what I observed. Because someone was once, long story short, someone once asked me that like why the Shafi'i method didn't make sense to me. I told him, well, because we take our usul, we basically apply it to the most extreme cases.
Hmm.
We don't like we never go against our usul ever.
Yeah,
Another reason.
yeah.
But
So
the
we
thing is,
like
like,
go ahead. Yeah,
but I mean, when it comes to like the niqab specifically, like I kind of took a deep dive into this and did some research, and it all comes down to whether or not the face is considered zina or not.
let's say it again. Sorry.
Like it all comes down to whether the fact is that the zina mentioned in the A, whether it includes the face or not.
Right, right.
Is the face of a woman considered zina or not?
Exactly. Yeah,
I mean, but I get what you're saying from I guess from a fatwa standpoint, from a general lesson, general manners like lesson standpoint.
yeah.
From the from usul perspective, like I don't know, it feels like the usul are the usul.
It's yeah, but basically when it's applied, like there are like other things. Like let's take the example of what is it? Of the al-wali al-fasiq, right?
Yeah.
So like this, you see like Imam Ghazali and others are like, well, look at the situation we're in. Like here's, this is the situation we're in. Like there's whole societies where people don't pray, you know?
Yeah.
You're telling me that now they can't but nikah is part of society, it's part of Islamic society. Like, but these people don't pray. Like these are these Bedouins, like they don't pray. You know, so like am I gonna tell him like you can't marry with your daughter? Like, you know? So that there's like just they just so if you on a kind of a on a they're just being like looking at the situation like this is the situation, you know. Um,
Uh,
Allahu Alam. So what I'm
exactly.
trying to say is that in principle, we don't have istislah, we don't have istihsan, we don't do sada dhara'i in the same way. We're not going to bend the Sharia, you know, like the Sharia is
Yeah.
Sharia, it doesn't change. But when practice, it does. In practice, it's like,
Yeah.
look what they're doing. They are actually like, here's Shafi madhab applied in Dagestan. It is not the same as Yemen. It's like, well, why then? Right? If you both of the ushaq of the tuhfa, like then what's the difference? Like, yeah, but it's just different, like just the reality of Dagestan is different to Indonesia, which is different to Yemen, like it's just different, different times, different places, Wallahu a'lam.
I totally understand that.
Khair. That said, I'm super strict. Like, I don't give salams to sisters. Like, I was in a class right now, and sisters like, "Assalamu alaikum," like, no response. I don't do it. I'm very strict on like I'm here giving talks. I'm like, I asked this community that I'm going to come and give a talk, like, but it has to be 100% gender segregation. They're like, no, we can't do that. I won't come then. Like that's how I do it. But I'm just saying that we should be cognizant of the fact that that's also me. I'm not a young man. I'm not an old man. And I'm not an angel. Like I don't feel comfortable, and things have happened in the past. Like people, like women, do take advantage of the situation. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that, right? Maybe if I was 80, it'd be different. I'd be like, yeah, chill. I'll come and talk to you, sister, whatever. Don't really care. But that's But so and I see that men and women, it's like it's always become stupid. Like I don't believe it, but that's maybe because of the time we're in, not the deen itself. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like
Yeah, no.
actually wajib in itself. Wallahu a'lam.
There's a hadith which Prophet ﷺ base. I don't know what what the hadith is, but like he was
Yeah,
talking to Abu Sufyan's wife Hind, and then like if he said the Prophet said something pertaining to adultery, and then it was like what, like does a female woman commit adultery? Like
exactly.
what? Like what are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like telling me, and make sure you don't eat dog filth. Like, am I gonna eat dog filth? Like, why would you even tell me
Yeah.
to do that, right? Whereas, like, of course, right? Oh, well, yeah, oh, well, hurra to tazni, like
Mhm.
she was like embarrassed, like to even like make a promise not to commit zina. It's like, well, yeah, welcome, and it's not welcome to 20th century. It's like welcome to the second century, because
Yeah.
immediately, right, you see like Aisha radiallahu anha saying, if the Prophet saw what women did today, he would ban them from the masjid, just like the women of Bani Israel were banned. It's like, wow, things changed immediately, right? Like think the akhlaq, how people are, right? But again, there's certain times where it's too much, right? It's like, when at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, was there some level of fitna going to the masjid knowing that she's there, right? Like, oh my God, she's going to be there again. He's going to be there again. Like, yeah, like some level of fitna is like, that doesn't make the halal haram. Some level of fitna, right? But it's like actual fitna, like this is ridiculous, right? Here's these teenage boys and teenage girls, they're hanging out. It's like, oh yeah, they're okay in a classroom together. It's like, no, they're not, because they're checking each other out and they're taking each other's, phone numbers. It's like flirting is already happening. So like, what's the point, right? Wallahu a'lam. طيب, so let's go to the next hadith. الفصل الثالث عن بريدة قال دخل بلال على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو يتغدى فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الغداء يا بلال قال إني صائم يا رسول الله فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نأكل رزقنا وفضل رزق بلال في الجنة أشعرت يا بلال أن الصائم تسبح عظامه وتستغفر not أشعرت عفوا أشعرت وتستغفر له الملائكة ما أكل عنده رواه البيهقي في شعب الإيمان, right? So الغداء meaning إلزم الغداء تعال كل الغداء, right? This is on منصوب على what's it called, إغراء, right? It's like it's a similar a bit to al-asada al-asad, right? Like the lion, hey, the food's here, meaning come and eat the food, right? And he said, I'm fasting, and the Prophet said, right? وَفَضْلُ رِزْقِ بِلَالٍ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. شعرت, did you know, this is what it means, did you know, Bilal, that whenever you fast, his body and his everything is, that his bones do tasbih and the angels do istighfar for him, ما أكل عنه ما مصدر ظرفية, as long as he is being eaten in front of. And he says, رواه البيهقي في شعب الإيمان. Is a ban here?
Yes, Siri.
Yeah. Ban,
Yeah.
right? So what's your guess then on the hukm of this hadith, given that it's in Shu'ab
It's
al-Iman?
it's weak.
Right. So here's a hadith that's only going to be in Shu'ab al-Iman. You know it's going to be weak, right? So Shu'ab al-Iman is a good example of, an anti-Sheikh Albani mentality. So Sheikh Albani's mentality is, if the hadith is weak, it's not a hadith. It's not part of the deen. Okay, let's pick up Shu'ab al-Iman, written by the great muhaddith and faqih al-Bayhaqi. The book is full of weak hadiths, such that you can say that whenever a hadith is only found in Shu'ab al-Iman, it's going to be weak. So why did he write the book? Oh, Imam Bayhaqi wrote the book so that people knew that it was weak, so they could ignore it. That's not why he wrote the book. He wrote the book for people to benefit from it. So this is a widespread, well-acknowledged methodology of our scholars, that when they're writing on Fada'il A'mal, they mention weak hadiths. Happens all the time, right? Okay, so it's not writing it. This is not, for example, let's say, for example, a book like Ilal of of Abu Hatim al-Razi. Okay, so he's going to have a chapter on something. He's writing the chapter to tell you about the Ilal of the hadith. Okay, Marasil of Abu Dawood. He's mentioning the hadith to show you that it's mursal. This is very different to Shu'ab al-Iman. Shu'ab al-Iman, he's writing the book for you to benefit. It is useful in your deen, even though it is weak. Right? That's what he's trying to tell us. Right? خير. خير. باب ليلة القدر. And so, simple thing, right? The Prophet ﷺ, his deeds were described as dima, right? A consistent trickling rain. So how can you guarantee that you find Laylatul Qadr? Make sure that you are awake for 5 minutes before Fajr every single day of the year. Simple as that. Don't be the person who is praying for 8 hours the whole night on Laylatul Qadr and then you're not found some other time, right? Same thing. We all of us, we have work, we have this, we have that. Be consistent. Stick to one madhab, learn it properly, don't stop. Stick to something, keep going. You exercise, keep doing the same exercise, regular, right? So, قليل قر خير من كثير فر, right? Super important in our ulum, in our life, in our everything, right? Every single day, you do 2 minutes of Russian, you will learn Russian. As opposed to, I spent a whole summer doing Russian 10 years ago. You're not going to know it, right? So, Laylatul Qadr, whatever comes next, fantastic, but consistency is the key in everything, right? Why'd you quote that now? That's from Sheikh Ali Hani.
Yeah, you were talking about the Ilal and then about Shu'ab al-Iman, so I just thought to
Exactly.
do that.
Jazakallah khair. Right, Sheikh Ali Hani. Right. Um, so al-ilmu shay'ani. There's two things. Al-ilmu shay'ani. شراء الكتب وقراءتها. Right? شراء الكتب وقراءتها. The other one it was معرفة الكتب ومعرفة مناهجها. Right? What's the book? How does the book work? Simple as that. Right? So this is the problem with ChatGPT. ChatGPT doesn't know how to use the book. So can it learn how to use the book? Or AI, can it? I don't know exactly. Like how to use that thing. Do either of you do you use Sheikh Hussein, do you use ChatGPT a lot? Do you use any?
Never.
Never. Alhamdulillah.
I mean,
أبوك
once
رباك صح ما شاء الله.
the it's
Alhamdulillah.
funnily I probably use ChatGPT sometimes,
Oh,
but
you
like for like writing letters and stuff.
Oh, right. I mean,
But other than no.
yeah, it has, yeah, it does have certain benefits, right? But it's like, I'm just interested in what it can actually do. It's like an interesting to see like what it can actually do. Like Aban in your world is going to be coming in immediately, right? It's like, I'm a GP, right? It's like you should have
Yeah,
AI.
Siri, but like you mentioned, it can pull results, but it does make errors. Like if, for example, like maybe in radiology, I think it'll definitely take up a huge chunk because it can pull previous X-rays, ultrasounds, MRI scans, and sort of. But when it comes to like say cognitive thinking and maybe analyzing the the different differentials and finding what fits it makes a lot of errors, to be honest. So it can pull data and compile it for you, but to like to analyze, like you were saying, like to know why a book was written and to think and sift through that information, select, like there it starts making mistakes. So yeah.
Yeah. But I think a good, let's say in your world or in my world, is it's useful if it just listens to me and makes suggestions. Like, hey, just like I'm gonna answer a question and it can just mention something. So now it just mentions something. So like, what have you considered this? And you're like, that's stupid. Why did you mention that? So you're looking at the patient and it's just listening to you, okay? And it has all this data. So like this patient has this. So then it just says, have you considered this? And you're like, well, that's stupid. Why would you consider that? You know? But sometimes it'll be like, actually, that's not stupid. As opposed to putting it at the front, right? It's now going to diagnose, and that's a problem. Like I'm going to have a telemed thing with an AI, and it's going to send me a prescription. That's a very dangerous thing to do, right? But it just listening to you and saying, well, Abana, have you considered this? And you're like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, Siri, for sure. And like, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. خير.
So I mean, one brief interaction with GPT with Shara rulings. Like once a friend, I told him like, look, just ask GPT what invalidates wudu in the Shafi'i madhab,
Mhm.
and it got it wrong. Like
Yeah,
it mentioned all of them and it added eating camel's meat
yeah.
in the
And
end.
then, but I remember like, or I've seen other things where it's like clearly doesn't understand what it's saying. Like it's saying things like it doesn't actually understand what it's because I mean obviously it doesn't understand, right? Like it's just it's predictive text on a higher level. So it's not really understanding what it's doing. So like they'll say things like that's just like it doesn't know that it's self-contradictory in like you said this and said that. So I've seen that as well. But anyway, so we'll see inshallah. We'll see how it works. Um, But certainly in my world of like doing Q&A, it's like half the questions are the same. If you did like if you did a Q&A every day, it's like 100%, like gonna be like I remember like a third of my questions is just let's say as a doctor, right? Aban is like a third of your questions like this person shouldn't be here in ER, you know? Like I'm working in ER. This person comes in like, why are you here? They're like, it's like, okay, you realize the person has an emotional problem that is not life-threatening and doesn't need to be here, right? So like that sifting process, like non-complex, like, oh, brother, your question indicates to me that you have a psychological problem. It's not a fiqh problem. And now all I need to do is say, da 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 da. I advise you to go to this, and then move on, right? It's like simple, low-level thing, right? As opposed to this is a fatwa question about, let's say machine slaughtered meat or whatever. Like it's not going to be very useful at all, that, right? But a lot of these low-level things, like, yeah, great, save my time, why not? You know. خير. Is that an evident online? What's your point, Avan?
No, in the Q&A, like if someone's asking you a question, like can you just judge from the like definitely in person you can sort
Yeah,
of
you can
understand.
you can see it. Like you can see, for example, they've written 10 pages about wudu, and it's like, you know. So I just know that you can look at the language. This person is like in emotional trauma, and it's not a fiqh question, right? Like you do not
Yeah.
have a fiqh question, you have an emotional question. Or the fact that like the way that I talk to you, I give you the answer and then they come back and they come back and they come back. It goes round and round and round in circles. Like there's something now they have like a cognitive problems like, oh, I see. Like this is not a fiqh issue. You have something else, right? There's an is it Yaqeen? I think Yaqeen Institute, they have an AI Q&A thing. It looked pretty good. It was like du'as or something like that. It was like you put in something like, oh, I'm going like I lost somebody in my family, and they're like da 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 da, and then consider making these du'as. It's like it was pretty good, you know, quite useful. Um, Allahu a'lam. خير. Anyway, we're back to the topic of being consistent. So it says تحروا ليلة so عن عائشة قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم تحروا ليلة القدر في الوتر من العشر الأواخر من رمضان. Right. This doesn't mean that it's not otherwise, but the Prophet ﷺ said, look for it. وعن ابن عمر قال إن رجالا من أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أروا, they were shown أروا ليلة القدر في المنام في السبع الأواخر فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أرى رؤياكم قد تواطأت. You're all seeing the same dream. Right? So how is it تواطأت? So this is plural, right? It's like saying أرى قومكم, which is mufrad, قد تواطؤوا. Right? How is that possible? Because the qawm is more than one. So I see your dream, meaning the dreams that you have all had. Right? So this is like for jins. Right? Your dream, meaning the category of your dream, which is in reality more than one. تواطأت. Right? It's all the same. They've all stepped on the same place. تواطأ, they've all stepped on the same place. في السبع الأواخر فمن كان متحريها, whoever wants to, فليتحرها في السبع الأواخر. متفق عليه. وعن ابن عباس أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال التمسوها في العشر الأواخر من رمضان ليلة القدر في تسعة تبقى وسبعة تبقى. Right, in the remaining 9 days or the remaining 7 days, وفي الخمسة تبقى, and in the remaining 5 days. وعن أبي سعيد الخدري أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اعتكف العشر الأول من رمضان ثم اعتكف العشر الأوسط في قبة تر... تركية. Right? شو اسمه تركيا؟ قال إمام صغ من لبود. I don't know what this is. Some kind of material. It doesn't mean Turkey. I don't think it's called. Turkey didn't exist yet. Right? The Atrak weren't even in Turkey at that time. Right? ثم أطلع رأسه. He made his head come out. فقال إني أعتكف العشر الأواخر ألتمس هذه الليلة ثم أعتكف العشر الأوسط ثم أتيت. Somebody came to me فقيل لي إنها في العشر الأواخر فمن كان اعتكف معي فليعتكف العشر الأواخر فقد أريت هذه الليلة. I've been shown it. وأنسيتها, and I've been made to forget it. ثم رأيتني أسجد في ماء وطين. Right? Not ماء وطين, ماء وطين, water and mud. من صبيحتها فالتمسوها في العشر الأواخر والتمسوها في كل وتر, every odd night. قال فمطرت السماء تلك الليلة وكان المسجد على عريش فوقف المسجد. So it was the roof caved in, basically. The roof, the water came through the roof. فبصرت, right? بصرة, right? Saw عيناي, my eyes saw the Prophet ﷺ وعلى جبهته أثر الماء والطين من صبيحة 21. Right? That's the position of Imam Shafi, that is 21st. متفق عليه في المعنى. واللفظ لمسلم إلى قوله فقيل لي إنها في العشر الأواخر والباقي للبخاري. وفي رواية عبد الله بن أنيس قال ثلاثة yeah, what's the word? What's lubud?
Labud, it's I think it's the type of mud from Labid, or like or a sheepskin.
Okay. If you can look it
So I
up. So, yeah.
looked it up on
Yeah.
I just Googled it.
Okay.
So I think probably just some sort of canopy, a
Canopy.
dome canopy or some sort.
Okay. ليلة 23 رواه مسلم. So it's the 23rd. وعن زر بن حبيش. Right. This is the Zir who is in Hafs and Asim. Right. So حفص عن عاصم ابن نجود عن زر بن حبيش عن عبد الله بن مسعود. Right. That's his sanad. His sanad to Abdullah Mas'ud, I believe, is from Zir ibn Hubaysh. Somebody can double check. Hafs and Asim. Hafs Asim ibn Abi Najud. I'm pretty sure that's him. Asim ibn Abi Najud. So he studied. وقرأ على زر بن حبيش عن الصحابي. Yeah, there we go. So his chain for the qira'ah of Abdullah Mas'ud is from Zir ibn Hubaysh. وعلى أبي عبد الرحمن السلمي عن علي بن طالب. Yeah. عن زر بن حبيش قال سألت أبي بن كعب قلت إن أخاك ابن مسعود يقول من يقم الحول يصيب ليلة القدر. Right? That's what I'm talking about. من يقم الحول, whoever prays every single night. A doable small amount that you can do every single night. Where's the problem? The problem is when we have a masjid that's Hanafi and they pray late. So I need to go to work, I need to sleep. And it's very hard. Now you wake up 15, 20 minutes before Fajr and pray 2 rak'ahs and make dua. And then you got to wait an hour to go to the masjid. It's like, Habibi, it's kind of difficult, right? Alhamdulillah, in Malaysia, it's great. They pray like 10 minutes. Every single day, they pray 10 minutes after Fajr. It's like, great. So like, I think everybody prays Tahajjud there. Like it's quite hard to go to Fajr if you don't pray Tahajjud because like you would just miss it because you're like 10 minutes left. Like adhan goes, 10 minutes later, they're gonna do the iqamah, right? So anyway, alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. ومن يقم الحول يصيب ليلة القدر فقال رحمه الله أراد أن لا يتكل الناس أما إنه قد علم أنها في رمضان وأنها في العشر الأواخر وأنها ليلة 27 ثم حلف لا يستثني. He didn't say أحلف بالله هو إن شاء الله. لا يستثني. He didn't say إن شاء الله أنها ليلة 27. فقلت بأي شيء تقول ذاك يا أبا المنذر قال بالعلامة أي بالآية التي أخبرنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه تطلع يومئذ لا شعاع لها. Right? So this is why we say 27th. والله أعلم. وأن عائشة قالت كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يجتهد في العشر الأواخر ما لا أي مطلق اجتهادا لا يجتهده في غيره. وعنها قالت كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا دخل العشر شد مئزره وأحيا ليله وأيقظ أهله. Right? So in this version, it's not really sure what he means by مئزره. Did he roll up his sleeves like he really got down to it? Or did he literally tie his belt, meaning he wouldn't sleep with his wives? Right? And so we're going to see maybe another version that was mentioned that he'd actually fold up his bed, meaning he would not be home, right? So what does it mean? That means in general, we have to be balanced people and have a modicum of ibadah, something you do on a regular basis. Every single day of your life looks roughly the same, right? Yes, you might do a little bit more on the weekend, might do have less time, but it shouldn't be something crazy, right? Like here's Aban, he is a doctor. What can you do on a regular basis, right? So it's not like, oh, Aban is this person and then that person. It's like, no, it's a basic picture. Aban is the same person every single day. What you can do on a regular basis. This is what he does. You know? This is wafa, right? Man arada safa falyalzama wafa, as they say, right? Whoever wants that pure relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be loyal. Like you have, this is what I do on a daily basis and it doesn't change, right? This is who I am. This is what I can do. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, right? It doesn't change, right? Normally speaking, right? Things can change here and there. Like, you're traveling, you have a night shift, you have this, you have that. Things can change a little bit. But generally speaking, this is who you are every single day, right? Um, but Ramadan is, there's a bit of an imbalance, right? Right? On Hajj, a bit of an imbalance, right? Meaning now going a bit more extreme, right? Um, and subhanAllah, may Allah forgive us all and give us wisdom, right? So here's this woman, and she's like, خلاص it's Ashr al-Awakhir, right? What is the hukm of her تشد مئزرها? What's the hukm on that? So she wants to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And like, خلاص, this is a time for ibadah, right? Why would I be available for my husband?
Only if her husband permits.
Exactly. So now in her mind, she's like, yeah, but my husband's a head case. Like, why does he want to do something like that during Ramadan? So what's your problem? Like, don't you want to do ibadah? So your answer say, Habibti, this is min arfa anwa al-ibadah. Right? Like, but the thing is, women don't understand that. Like, they kind of get lost. Like, what are you talking about? It's like, وما تقرب إلي عبدي بشيء أحب إلي مما افترضت عليه. Right? So what's more important? Being in the masjid for Laylatul Qadr or being physically available for your husband? I'm going to miss Laylatul Qadr. What are you talking about? Laylatul Qadr. It's like, Habibti, those angels, they're going to come down. They're going to curse you. Like, you don't want the angels, all those angels to come and curse you, right? So this is, if they kind of just get like dumbstruck, like we're talking about, right? But it's like, this is the hikmah that we need people to understand. You see the hikmah, subhanAllah, Abdullah Mas'ud, what did he say? He's like, he's telling these people, he saw what they were doing. He's looking at the tabi'een, he's like, you guys didn't have the same mentality that we have. He said, whoever prays the whole year, you'll get Laylatul Qadr. Be consistent. Hikmah. Right? Abdullah Mas'ud used to tell the Salaf, he said, you guys do more worship than us, but we have more ajr because we have more zuhud. Like, you don't have the mentality that we have. You do lots of things, but we have the right mentality. So it's very important, like, that we see things as they are. Like, what's more important? Going to this big masjid and the sheikh is going to give a big talk and I'm going to feel all these like buzz. And it's like, yeah, but that's not where you're supposed to be. If Allah doesn't want you to be in the masjid, Allah wants to be in your bed, right, in janaba, then why shouldn't you be there, It's like subhanAllah, but they don't see that because we're materialist, right? Somebody who doesn't see that for example, like Uwais al-Qarni, okay, well, he wasn't a Sahabi, was he? Yeah, but you're thinking as a materialist. He was a Sahabi in the sense that had his mother not been sick, he would have gone, right? But his mother was sick, and so he's looking after her, right? So it's like, but we're not materialists. So a woman is, when they have this mentality, like, dude, why would you want to do something like that? That's not making any sense. Well, would I prefer to do sujood and be thinking about the opposite sex? Would you prefer to do sujood and be like, I don't think about the opposite sex? It's like, oh yeah, good point, right? It's better to miss, what should you do? What should you do, right? In fiqh wise, right? Somebody who wants to be intimate and has the ability and they want to pray, should you go to the masjid or should you be intimate? Should you be intimate? It's like, right? It's like, that's the sunnah. That's what they mentioned. The fuqaha tell us that. And she's thinking like, what's your problem? Like, you're a weirdo. Like, you missed the masjid. You don't go to the masjid. You're a head case, right? Like, what kind of sheikh are you? It's like, yeah, but that's the deen. Like, you don't understand how the deen works, right? So may Allah give us wisdom and give us patience and help us educate our sisters in the deen, right? It's like, sister, you're manning a post, right? It's really, really important. Like, you're manning a post. This is the post. This is the bastion that you are defending. Defend it properly and don't be somewhere where Allah doesn't want you to be. I remember, SubhanAllah, just going on these tangents, but I remember I was at the Sheikh Ratib Nabulsi. Have you heard of him, Sheikh Hussein?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, right. So he was at this wedding and he was giving this talk, and then he was like, right at the end, he was like, وَقُومِي إِلَى فَرَاشِكِ. And I was like, dude, he just like, that's a bit rude, right? Like, he just said that in front of everybody, like "Qumi ila farashiki," like "Qumi ila salatiki," like. And I was like, why did he say that? That's like kind of, that's kind of like a young man joke or something like that. And then I realized it's not a joke. He's not joking. It's like really putting things in perspective. It's like, sister, before you, mashallah, you were very religious and you were like dedicating yourself. Like now is a big shift of like, I'm a single sister. Like, what do I occupy myself doing? And now I'm married. It's like now my worship changes from like reading books to changing diapers, from like doing sujood, right? To like basically being available for my husband and doing all these funny things. Like, yeah, but that that is your ibadah. It's like on Hajj, like suddenly your worship changes, right? You used to be like still, like I have to stand here and worship Allah standing still. Now I'm worshiping Allah by moving. Like it's really weird. So yeah, it is very confusing. So the point he's making is like, so sister, the type of ibadah that you are now doing is very different. But you need to be cognizant of that and see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that. Because otherwise you're gonna miss out. She's the number one missing and she's gonna miss out, right? She's like doesn't think like that, right? Inshallah. Hope that makes sense. Um, okay. وعن عائشة قالت قلت يا رسول الله أرأيت إن علمت أي ليلة ليلة القدر. Why is there no fatha on the word أي? أرأيت إن علمت أي ليلة ليلة القدر.
هذا الابتداء الاستئناف. إن علمت أي ليلة القدر ما أقول فيها.
Okay,
It's
so
like the أي ليلة, it's the جواب الشرط, I guess. Or not, hold on.
Sheikh Aban, what's your fatwa? Where is the مفعول به of علمت?
I'm just
I
check
think
TV real quick.
Ayu Laylatin, it's fi mahal. Is it? Oh no, it's not. I'm not sure. Sorry.
Okay, so alima, this type of alima is min bab dhanna wa akhawatuha. Okay, min bab dhanna wa akhawatuha takes two maf'ul bihis. So you say alimtu abanan tabiban. I knew Aban to be a doctor. A'lamu abanan uh, أعلم أبانا طبيبا. Okay, I know him to be that. Okay, it takes two maf'ul bihis. One thing that can happen with dhanna and akhawatuha is we can do ta'liq. So in dhanna wa akhawatuha about ta'liq, ta'liq comes in other things as well, but it comes up here. So we say things like alimtu aina zaydun. Like I knew where Zayd was. So what's happening here? Right? What's happening when you say alimtu aina zaydun is what's happening is the maf'ul so what alima is trying to do is trying to put two words into the nasb state. So it has like this double nasb injection. It's trying to say alimtu zaydan fadilan, right? It's trying to try these two things. What happens then is now we have ayu, which is a question, and it has sadara, and it stops any amal. So what's happening is ayu is a mubtada, laylatin is the khabar. Sorry, laylatin mudaf ilay, laylatul qadri khabar, right? So so now, or the other way around, you can put it either way. This is a jumla ismiya, but that jumla ismiya is mu'allaqah bi alimtu. So that's called ta'liq. Ta'liq, you cancel basically the direct amal of this verb and it does amal on the mahal. So now this is basically the sentence ayu laylatin laylatul qadr is in like the double mahal of nasb. Like the two nasb things are happening directly to the sentence, right? So in English, we would say, if I knew which day, which night was Laylatul Qadr. In Arabic, you say, if you knew question. It's almost like quote, which night is Laylatul Qadr? Okay, so it happens we talk about it in bab dhanna wa akhawatuha, but it happens with other verbs as well, right? Sa'altu Zaydan kam umruhu, right? So you don't translate this as I asked Zayd question mark how old is he? It means I asked Zayd how old he was, right? ليبلوكم أيهم أحسن عملا. Right? And so this ta'liq happens with other things as well. So if you look in Sharh Ibn Aqil, تحقيق of Sheikh Muhyiddin Abdul Hamid, in his footnotes on ta'liq, he mentions 4 situations where it happens. Okay, I think 4 or 5 scenarios there. So you can just put a little note there, even if you don't have time to say, see تحقيق Muhammad Muhyiddin Abdul Hamid on Ibn Aqil and Alfiya, and he's going to have that whole thing there, right? But here, this is what's happening: is alimtu a, right? This is not the a is not the maf'ul bihi of alimtu. The 2 maf'uls bihis of alimtu are now just the sentence itself. Min bab at-ta'liq. It's happening through ta'liq. Okay, that's what's happening there. Okay, ما أقول فيها. Right. قال قولي اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عني. رواه أحمد وابن ماجه والترمذي وصححه. وعن أبي بكرة قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول التمسوها، يعني ليلة القدر، في 9 يبقين، أو في in the remaining 9 days, right? أو في 7 يبقين، right? أو في 5 يبقين، أو 3، أو آخر ليلة. رواه الترمذي. وعن ابن عمر قال سئل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن ليلة القدر فقال هي في كل رمضان، أي تقع في أيام مختلفة. right? رواه أبو داود. قال سفيان وشعبة عن أبي إسحاق موقوفا. Right? So there's certain versions.
Nasiri, I think you got muted.
My apologies. Just to go quiet my kids down. Okay, so he's basically mentioned that Sufyan and Shu'bah both agree that it's from Abi Ishaq mawqufan ala Ibn Umar, right? So it's not an issue of Sufyan and Shu'bah disagreeing. They both agree on that, and somebody else narrates it in another way, right? Allahu a'lam. So it's probably the words of Ibn Umar, right? وعن عبد الله بن أنيس قال قلت يا رسول الله إن لي بادية أكون بها وأنا أصلي فيها بحمد الله فمرني بليلة أنزلها إلى هذا المسجد. فقال انزل ليلة 23. قيل لابنه كيف كان أبوك يصنع؟ قال كان يدخل المسجد إذا صلى عصر فلا يخرج منه لحاجة حتى يصلي الصبح، فإذا صلى الصبح وجد دابته على باب المسجد فجلس عليها ولحق بباديته. He'll go out to the desert. رواه أبو داود. Inshallah, we'll continue from here next week. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.
جزاكم الله خيرا.
وإياكم.